Chapter 3. Easy e-learning. Inken's case for easy e-learning. Inken now loves her life. A free agent, an entrepreneurial advisor to people wanting to change, and enjoys it. She has a checkered past, but doesn't need to work so hard these days. Living well, as enough money comes in from her income streams, and has all the time she needs to do what she likes. Happy as she is, things were not always so. Rewind 2 years and Inken has a high standard of living, but a poor quality of life. Works in a busy central London corporate environment inside a tall glass building on the 35th floor as a recruitment specialist in an open plan office. Rather like the Facebook open plan office in California, the work entails sifting through thousands of pages of data from prospective candidates for global shipping industries. Not minding the work at first, but as the information age motors on, communication technology and her networks grew too. As time passed, there were more and more applications each day coming from as far afield as China, Australia, and India through various internet channels. Whereas, in former times, she would access and assess and make notes on 50 applications in an afternoon, now was expected to assess 300 to 400 in the same time. If she failed, there would be even more to do the next day, so she had to finish things up each day. In time, the wear and tear began to show up in her as bad health. Fatigue, tiredness and bad skin sent her to the clinic. Advice received from the doctors was to work a 50% week timetable. As a valued employee, her boss kept her perks in place, which were quite generous, but Inken had to live off half the money she used to, and didn't like that at all. The upside was having more time. The hours she did showed an increased productivity ratio compared to working the full week, but her standard of living slowly declined as the quality of life gradually improved. She loved the hours, but now wanted more, needed more too as the unpaid bills flowed in. One morning, Inken stumbled across Easy e-Learning by David Jean-Baptiste from a firm called the Wellness Clarinet Limited. An interesting name, she thought to herself, wondering what the clarinet bit was all about, but she kept reading. Learning from mistakes. David talks of his silly mistakes as a young person as he turns the clock back a few years. Can you believe it? One day I was stranded on the lovely island of Martinique in the Caribbean. On an evening I was meant to be leading my woodwind horns group, the Righteous Reeds, on the stage of the Queen Elizabeth Hall, all the shock, horror and disappointment of Mr. No-Show. Other than the obvious missing bass clarinet, alto saxophone, dimension and personality, it was no problem for the guys in the band to cover for me, as all of them are superb musicians in their own right. If I remember, we had Patrick Clahar, Jason Yard, Tony Kofi, Dennis Baptiste, but it was bad for me. In fact, very bad. Raising a titter or two whenever my name came up in conversation during the period of following that time. A big mistake for sure, and one luckily I've never repeated again to date. Somehow I had to change, to alter the meaning this poor memory had for me. Not to negate its importance as a professional musician, but to see that it would no longer hold power over me. Turning to a technique learned from Richard Bandler called turning mistakes into humour. As well as feeling silly and stupid, I was instructed to exaggerate the image and make it sillier and even more stupid, ridiculous and surreal. Expanding the time frame, tuning in to the feelings, sensations, sounds and other fine sensuals, such as expanding the mental picture, making it distorted and comical, totally exaggerated. I adopted the voice of Mickey Mouse and played the saxophone like Zoot from The Muppet Show loudly and ridiculously, myself becoming the Cookie Monster. The truth is, today, whenever I think of this totally unprofessional mistake, I can laugh. And I laugh hard too. Whenever taking myself too seriously again, I see a custard pie smacking me in the face to hysterical laughter. It works. Inken thought it hilarious and cast her mind back to silly things that she had done. Falling over in a dance performance sprang to mind. Following the exercise to the letter, it wasn't long before she was on the floor in hysterics about it. A fast phobia cure. It is incredible just how many people have an extreme or irrational fear or an aversion to something in their daily lives. Developing a phobia, be it an aversion to heights, spiders, dog, public performance or speaking, can have disastrous consequences for these people. Especially when the phobic reaction creates intense fear, sickness and adverse physical symptoms, impeding them from enjoying situations that another person would relish. Phobias are nothing more than a negative learning experience that got stuck as a mindset. Each time that person sees the object of their derision, the phobic reaction is triggered, re-experiencing those horrible feelings. Here is the fast phobic cure. A. Stop a moment and bring to the surface what your phobia is. Be truthful. B. In your mind's eye, enter an imaginary theatre and position yourself on a seat in the centre of the front row. Why not making a grand theatre? On a stage there is a very large screen. C. Look up to a balcony to the left or right of the theatre, a balcony where a VIP would be chosen to sit and view a performance. Now, allow a double of you to float up to the balcony. Gently take a prime viewing position on the seat of the balcony. So now you can watch yourself in the front row watching the screen. D. On the screen, there is a colourful paused movie of you freeze-framed as a slide at the very beginning of experiencing your greatest fear. Be brave. Be brave, re-experience those feelings as you play the movie all the way to the end. Phew, what a relief. It's over. E. When the movie is over, freeze frame the final slide as you turn the screen black and white. Get up out of your seat in the front row and walk into the movie. Fully associate yourself into the movie and rewind the movie triple speed or faster with comical and cartoon-like music playing. Freeze frame the very first image when you get back to the beginning of the movie. F. Walk out of the still slide and sit back down in your seat in the front of the theatre. Then white out the entire screen. Loop steps C to F as often as necessary. Each time, test for phobic response after each run-through. A phobia is only a poor state of mind, which can and should be transformed into a healthy curiosity for that thing or situation. David continued saying that learning is a state of mind, and a powerful one at that. It took me a very long time to understand what money is, the nature of it, and the laws which govern it. Learning how to become a forex and stock trader helped me understand this immensely. Being always honest and hard-working and good at what I do, I've always been lucky and able to acquire money. But there was a blip in my mental programming somewhere, and that program crashed occasionally. So, what is money? The essence of perceived value you give to a thing or your offering, combined with creativity to attain it, as there is more than enough money in the world. With the power of genuine passion behind your action or love of your thing to give value to other people. So what was my problem? Later I realised that I had been putting too low a value on my skills and ability because I have it in abundance. I took my virtues too lightly. Also, I would do whatever I pleased without looking into the needs of people who might buy into me or what I'm offering. A good friend once told me that I choke at the people who love me. Why did I do this? Again, later, I realised that as a fanciful character I would go for the cheap thrill, unknowingly looking for acceptance from the wrong people instead of hanging my hat with the ones who love and cheer me. So why did I do this? Even though I had more ability than almost anyone I knew, this thinking came from a value that I was not good enough, and I played this out in my financial life, actually believing deep inside that I was undeserving of lasting success and wealth. As they say, you can hold on to a belief, but the system moves it around. So where did this come from? That's quite easy to understand. Having been born and brought up in Mile End, East London, growing up I didn't have the references around me showing me that I could reach the sky if I wanted to. In fact, the opposite. Many boys there were hard nuts, a few of them among the toughest people you will ever meet. It's true to say that quite a few people left school and went straight into the work market without a trade, but there were very many success stories too, as the school I went to spawned many millionaires. This was at a time before regeneration, before all the investment and big businesses moved to East London, before Canary Wharf existed, when that area was known as the Isle of Dogs. Luckily, I had an amazing clarinet teacher at school by the name of Bunny Gould. Bunny was the best woodwind doubler I've ever known, playing the bassoon, all saxophones, clarinets and flutes at a very high level, and a brilliant reader. And what's more, he was always there for me. He taught me a system for practicing scales that he used on all of his instruments. Later I developed this, taking it further. Working for years and years in London's West End musicals like Evita and Song and Dance for the likes of Andrew Lloyd Webber. Bunny wasn't a touring musician, so was there every Monday for my entire school life. With him, from 11 years of age to 16, I learned fast, advancing quickly. It was him who gave me the ability and vision. Also, having it in my genes from my father, Ashley, who was a very able bass player. This is where the talent came from. Many years later, having achieved success as a professional musician in England and beyond, Bunny offered me a large chunk of his teaching work. He had been in the game for years and was on a top scale of pay that I would have stepped into. He wanted me to give something back to where I was from, but I refused, knowing that such a move would change my direction and the complexion of my international musical lifestyle. Plus, I could never be for the kids what he was to me. I simply wasn't ready to do that back then. Whether it was a selfish refusal on my part, I don't know, but I had to keep moving forward, and I have done so. Osmosis. Jugglers are very able learners. Whatever one can say about the often scruffy image of some street performers, they enjoy peripheral skills from their ability to juggle. Having recently spent time in Edinburgh, the Edinburgh Festival is the par excellence of the street performing industry. Some of the feats I have seen are jaw-dropping. Learning a new trick involves failing and trying again, dropping the balls again and again until you get it right. Once, I belonged to a juggling club in Highgate in London that met on Thursday evenings. At the end of every session, I felt I could learn a new language at will, there and then, as well as having triggered immense feel-good endorphins from my brain through the rest of my body. My efforts to learn new tricks and perform the tricks I already knew better, coupled with learning from everyone else there, who would be performing all manner of feats, from juggling 6 clubs in groups, hacky sack rings, ripboarding and other bizarre modes of transport, devil stick, 6-ball juggling tricks, and a lot of the other stuff I couldn't do very well. Learning there by osmosis, my learning strategy ran on steroids. Talk about optimizing eye to hand and mind-body coordination. Juggling promotes ambidexterity and relaxed concentration. Relaxed concentration being in a state of mind I find particularly fascinating since learning the Alexander technique in my late teens. I found a fringe benefit for me showed up in my driving. I can drive a right-hand drive car on the left-hand side or the right-hand side of the road, just as easily as I can drive a left-hand drive car on the right-hand side of the road or the left-hand side of the road. Lots of new levels of connectivity in the brain, I'd say. Radiant thinking with mind maps. Tony Buzan, the inventor of mind maps, has changed the world through the use and application of them in businesses, governments, and naturally in education. He calls it radiant thinking, a whole-brained approach to thinking, utilizing both left and right cortical skills in tandem. Right brain skills being imagination, spatial awareness, color, rhythm, dimension, movement, daydreaming, density. Left brain cortical skills including logic, numbers, lists, words and order and sequence. Mind mapping combines them all. Also presenting a most ideal way for our intention in Motion Milestone consulting clients to empty their minds of all their intentions, plans, milestones, life sectors, challenges, and a lot more. A typical mind map starts with a central image in 3 colours, moving out from the centre clockwise from, let's say, 1 o'clock in 3 or 4 main keyword branches. The core keywords sitting on the branches triggering ever smaller branches, rather like a tree. Each main branch with its own dedicated colour. Using images, codes, and many levels of association, all cortical skills are applied. When the ideas have poured out of the head onto paper or canvas, in the iMind Map software, you can see your thinking very, very clearly. Your priorities and errors in prioritizing. Then maybe section smaller areas to scrutinize with a more specific mind map. Mind maps are an awesome tool to use and to have under your hat. Tony Buzan's iMind Map software is particularly a special tool. Users enjoy so many benefits and features, like converting the mind map to numerous file formats, maybe a PowerPoint or a video to upload to YouTube, group collaboration functions, and more. Mind maps also act as a super memory device. If I were to mind map a whole book on one page or a presentation, perhaps the first branch with the main theme, characters, plot, etc. in keyword form, creating other branches to collect the rest in keywords and images associations I get from the book. If I were to leave it alone, forget about it, and come back 6 months later, just one glance at the mind map would be all I would need for the whole book or presentation to come back to me. Once I had a Swedish girl friend called Anna from the pretty town of Stockholm. Seems appropriate, as she was very beautiful indeed. Back then I wasn't sure about being called Schnuckelbear by her, but that's okay. Anna worked in travel guides in a firm in Covent Garden and has fine and unique artistic skills. One day, I created a mind map for life on a large sheet of paper including all my intentions and desires on it, and asked Anna to create all the detailed artwork on it for me. When finished, it was a work of art indeed, and I felt very proud. Rich in colour, codes, associations, and priorities. With goals and intention of such nature, it is advised that you view and review them each day. Perhaps it is a good idea to carry your top 3 goals around with you on a laminated card to view at different points of your day. But I didn't do this, and it wasn't long before I left my gorgeous mind map under a pile of books and forgot about it. Eventually, getting back to it, to my elation, I had achieved every goal I had set to myself on the mind map. Knowing this was an incredible realization. I began to wonder, what was the kicker? What made it happen? It must have been something about the level of joy and expectation I had about the map when I had finally laid my ideas out. I loved the images created by a woman I was in love with and enjoyed the look and feel of it. Unknowingly, my positive emotional connection to it set the power of my mind and body into action, and things began to happen. Inken was rightly impressed by this and began to think about how to use mind maps to create categories and subcategories for the various job applications and types of work. as this would indeed take her productivity up a level or two and save her more time, meaning she could work more hours without the burnout and make more money, in turn, raising her standard of living by a notch or two. Your learning strategy. We can all learn things new and relearn things in a new way. This is of paramount importance if you desire to win the game, whatever that game may be. If we learn something the wrong way, we need take a look at what we do, then to unlearn and relearn that thing in the right way. When learning a new piece of music, I always aim to input the notes correctly in my brain, under my fingers, the first time of playing a piece, as there is always a speed at which I can play something, even 10 times slower than the original speed, but I can always get it right the first time. This gives me no option to make a mistake, as my body doesn't know how to play a mistake, as the information has been inputted correctly. As the saying goes, the learner will inherit the earth. The learned find themselves equipped for a world that no longer exists. Unlearning and relearning reminds me of a time on my NLP practitioner training with Julian Russell. The exercise we were learning was changing personal history using timeline. The exercise involved first bringing to the surface an emotional block that restricts growth in some way. Quickly realizing I had one and applied it to the exercise. My block was something to do with connecting emotionally with men on a very simple level of friendship, even though I had many male friends. Its negative influence resulted in sometimes being aloof or a little aggressive. In timeline, you place an imaginary line in front of you. It is important to know where the past is in space for you as well as the future. Asking a simple question like, "What is the colour of your front door?" can ascertain this for you depending on whether you look up to the left or right, but that's another topic. So standing on my timeline in the present, holding this question in my mind regarding the issue with men, I walked along the timeline back in time. As I engaged in this exercise fully, associating into it with fine sensuals, I found it just amazing, the memories that came up as I walked back in time. At 5 years old, I hit the block that strongly resonated with my problem. I was 5 and it was my birthday, expecting my father to show up with a present he promised me, but he never came. I remember how sad and disappointed I felt. Knowing I found the emotional block, I stepped off the timeline and took a breath, before walking back up to the present moment in time. The next stage of the exercise was to stand on the line and create an emotional resource of all the men in my life who had encouraged me. So again, I walked back along the line. There were so many, from my teachers to influential family members. Stacking all these memories together, I walked them back to my disappointing time at 5 years old. I replaced the negative emotional resource with the powerful and supportive one. Alas, feeling the shift immediately, it was a strong one, and I was free. Some people speak of their long, dark past, and it's good to know that your long, dark past need not be so dark. The really funny thing is, that afternoon I felt a very strong pull to call my uncle Totor, who had always been so supportive. That evening I went to visit him. It so happened to be his birthday, and many other family members were at his home celebrating with him. The good news is that it may be powerful to you to apply this exercise to any emotional block you have. Naturally, you will need to discover what the block is, but you can surface it. Repeat this exercise many times until when you think of the place and the time where the negative emotion resided and you feel no pain, only pleasure. Enjoy the knowledge that it can be replaced by any resource that you can imagine. When you're done, stand in the present on your own timeline and walk into the future to an impending planned event, bringing this resourceful feeling back with you. The previous exercise may very well deal with an emotional block impeding your learning. Now we need to turn on your learning ability, pretty much to the level at which you were able to learn as a child. Children are amazing learners. So go back in time, using timeline or mentally, and think of the point in time just before a powerful learning experience. Can you remember the point at which you learned to ride a bike or something else? What did you do? Where were you? Most of all, was it the kicker? How did you feel? Who was with you? Was something said to you? If so, what? What physical sensations did you have? Make it a picture panoramic, in 3-dimension, large, life-size and bright. What type of sounds were around you? What did you say aloud or to yourself? Was there a dominant colour, sound, pressure, pitch, timbre, taste, or fragrance? Are you in the picture, experiencing it as real or looking at it? Bring the picture closer to you. Are you looking at it from an angle? Up, down, left, or right? Is it center-weighted? Make the colours crisp and bold and the image clear. Was there movement? If so, in what direction? Increase the intensity. Amplify everything as much as you can, then find another learning experience and then another and do the same, until a clear series of steps emerge for you to know how you learn quickly. Anchor it and learn how to recall this mental and physical state of high learning. Another way could be to study someone doing something that you want to learn how to do. Study them in detail and take notice of all the steps from A to Z they take to do what they do, both in action and mentally too. Get their permission. You may need to get closer to them, but it will be worth it. Then aim to apply all of those steps they use to your own efforts and see how it works. Test it and continue to test by adding criteria that works for you until you get the results that you're looking for. Strengthening your inner world. Tune in to the power of perspective. Overcoming a challenge or building upon an idea may involve looking at it from a different point of view. Having said this, it is important to know exactly what your own perspective is. Step into the shoes of another and see it from their eyes. What do they feel, see, hear? How do they view the challenge, idea or situation? Maybe take a third position and see the challenge, idea or situation looking from their point of view, or from the first two people through the eyes of person 3. Organise this spatially using chairs if you so desire, moving between them. What beliefs and values does the third person from this position have? What do they see, hear and feel when observing the challenge or idea from your and person 2's position? Perhaps bring in a person 4 and build a we position of all 4 views. This will invariably give you an immensely richer picture of your challenge, idea or situation. You may want to assign the other 3 positions character types of even as mastermind group of advisors. If you were dealing with an investing decision, for example, what would happen if you created a mental life-size image of Warren Buffett, the super investor? Step into him, become him, see what he may hear, see what he may see what he may feel. What advice may he give you? You could do the same for visionary musician Bob Marley if you wished, but don't get too stoned. I love running ideas through the Walt Disney strategy, a strategy with 3 perceptual positions, one of the dreamer, the realist, and the critic. Changing perspectives on something is an incredible, powerful thing to do. Experiment with perceptual positions until you become masterful at them. They draw upon archetypal energies, which may be a very slippery fish to grasp at first for some, but in the same ilk as mastermind group sets managing consultants use to solve problems for businesses. But I can promise when you get it, you will never look back. Particularly, in-tune people are known to invoke archetypes of power of that sort. Mozart is the best example I can think of. I'd say earlier in his life, he invoked Haydn. Later on, his work came straight from the creator as pure genius. a man capable of hearing a complete original work of music in his head, only needing to write it down, be it a symphony, concerto, or an opera. Another way to strengthen your inner world is by taking a word of value. Let's say trustworthy. You can explore the word with any number of people. For now, let us say 3 people were to explore the word trustworthy. Person A tells person B what the word means to them. What does a person do? Look, say, sound to be trustworthy? How do they carry themselves? How do they make you feel? What makes a person trustworthy? Then person A and person B switch roles while person C takes notes and observes. Rotate until all 3 have explored the word for themselves, each building on the information of the other. Photo reading. As this is easy e-learning, I will very briefly go into the components of photo reading, an accelerated reading technique by Paul Scheel of the Learning Strategies Corporation, merely to create a curiosity for you in photo reading. So photo reading is a great way to read through large amounts of material and obtain the vital information that it gives you and what you need. My photo reading instructor that I was certified by, signed by Paul Scheel, was a very talented Slovenian named Matej Sedmak. Matej is a man world-class at learning and teaching languages, as well as many other things. He gave us a demonstration of reading and comprehending a thick book on a random topic in virtually no time at all. There are 5 main steps to the technique. Number 1, prepare. Number 2, preview. Number 3, photo read. Number 4, post view. Number 5, activate. So with number 1, prepare. Clearly state to yourself your intention for reading. Use the 3-2-1 relaxation technique to get you into the right state of mind. Number 2, preview. Look over the material, perhaps at the index and table of content, then decide whether you want to go ahead. Number 3, photo read. Prepare to photo read. Enter the resource level of mind. Affirm your capability and the goal you are going to achieve. Enter the photo focus state. See the blip page and use the tangerine technique. Keep your state steady while flipping the pages and chanting. When done, affirm the effect your photo reading has had. Number 4, post view. Do a more in-depth survey. Find trigger words that get your attention as you go through the book, 15 pages at a time. Formulate questions based on what you need to know for specific information. Number 5, activate. Wait some time before activating. Allow for an incubation period. Review the questions you wrote down during the post view. It allows the mind to search for connections that lead you to the right pages. Super read parts of the text by moving your eyes down the center of the pages to create awareness to large blocks of text. Dip into text to explore certain passages and answer certain questions. Rhythmic perusal is the best way to dip. Skitter your eyes over supporting words and phrases. Mind map. Rapid read by reading the text quickly from start to finish. Explore other alternatives to activation like discussion and dreaming. Intention in motion with timeline. Take this moment and stand on your own timeline in the present. Know where your future, past and present is on your timeline and relax. Have your timeline extend out 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years into the future. Give this imaginary line your favourite colour. Add sparkles. Widen or enlarge it, whatever makes it more compelling for you. Imagine a desire you have, an intention or dream. Point to an image of you having achieved this desire, amplifying this feeling and double again to the point where your desire to achieve this intention becomes breathtaking. Have this image on a 40 by 40 foot screen. Step into the picture and let the intense sensations vibrate inside of you. Take this image and move it over to the timeline. Move it a little further out where you think it will be. Maybe 5 years or 7 years. Then bring it closer towards you, to a point on your timeline where it feels compelling. Take this image out even further into your future, to age 90 or more. Look back along the timeline to now and see all the changes that would have had to take place for you to have achieved your dream. Notice how your life will have changed and the things you do differently. Now, bring the image back to the present and intensify the feeling, then a little into the past. With the image in the past, experience the thing you desire to achieve already being a past event. Now something you have already done. Bring the image up to the present and into the now. Where is the image now, and how do you feel about it? Notice where the image has settled in. Do you believe that it already is possible and achievable in the near future? All this left much food for thought for Inken as she got lost in David's easy e-learning world. So much so, she wondered how much time in her life had been wasted not knowing this stuff. From now onwards, she would do all possible to assume the position as master learner, a mind mapper committed to getting to know her learning strategy and to become a master of using perceptual positions. Back in the field, she tested and tested these new skills and successfully, as she hoped, for became a master learner. When stepping into her high learning state, she could now access and assess 500 applications in a fraction of the time than before. Back on a full week of work, her standard of living reached heights like she had never seen, and her quality of life too. After a while, having taught a few other employees in the firm how to do the same that she had learnt, also adding to her skills flow center, photo reading, intention in motion milestones, equations for life sectors, avatar alchemy, and accelerating the motion, the shipping industry firm she worked for became a market leader and infinitely more profitable. All was well and good universally. In her heart, Inken felt the need for change of direction, and that's where the entrepreneurial advisor work took over. Her new learning skills gave her the confidence and all the money to make the changes she wanted to, and it has served her well ever since. Easy e-learning is a powerful tool. Use it and your life will change in ways you never thought possible. Take action today.